All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Prosek. I'm a second-year MBA student at MIT Sloan, and along with my classmate Steve Burt down here in the front row, one of the organizers of the First Pitch Case Competition. I want to thank everybody for coming out today for the First Pitch competition. We have 3 teams that have presented some great presentations for us all today. And I also want to thank very much Aramark for sponsoring this event. They've been fantastic sponsors, and everything from generating case question, case material, and case data, initial judging, and now here for final judging, along with a fantastic, what the teams will want to know, a fantastic prize package for the winning team, the runner-up, and the second runner-up team. So thank you very much, Aramark. We greatly appreciate it. Speaking of judges, I want to mention the panel that we have here. 5 judges, 3 from Aramark. So Mark Bruno, the president of Aramark Sports and Entertainment. Kevin Pellegrin, I want to make sure I get your title right here too, the Director of Consumer Insight and Analytics for Aramark Sports and Entertainment. And then Nick Kimlinger, Director of IT Project and Process Management for Aramark Sports and Entertainment. So that's our Aramark group of judges. And then we have 2 First Pitch mainstays here. Corbin Petro, President of Elevate Health, who has been a long-time judge for us here in First Pitch. We appreciate having her back. And the creator of First Pitch, Larry Latafe, is here. It's a great day for us on the First Pitch team, and he's the Director of Retail Strategy and Planning for the Kraft Sports Group. So thank you very much to our judges. We greatly appreciate you taking the time to come out and be part of this today. The way it's going to work is we have 3 teams. Each team is going to have 10 minutes to present their case findings. The case question that they're all trying to answer was, as I said, developed by Aramark. And I think they're going to sort of bring that up as they go through their case findings. But there are more details on that in the program if you want to take a look at that. We're trying to be mindful of time here. Each team will have about 10 minutes, and then 5 minutes for judges' questions after that. And we have 3 teams today. The first one up is going to be from University of Wisconsin, and then we have Northwestern University, Kellogg School, and then a team from University of Pennsylvania at Wharton. So those will be our 3 teams. And I'm going to start with the Wisconsin team.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Can we get the clicker there, too? Awesome. Got to make sure I know how to work this here. So, as Jeff said, we are the team from the Wisconsin School of Business. My name's Peter. This is Scott Olson and AJ Dingra here. And we're here to talk a little bit about fan analytics. So teams face a really interesting dilemma in trying to provide a really cool in-stadium customer experience while at the same time maximizing that customer value. And that problem is compounded by a couple things. Primarily, we don't really know who the people are who are actually attending games in the stadium or the arena, and we don't know what they're doing when they get there. And that makes it really difficult to segment our customer population. And because of that, we have a limited ability to really understand the effectiveness of our fan outreach efforts. So to address this, we propose a solution that involves a comprehensive system of tracking fan attendance and behavior in the stadium, and then coupling that system with efforts to shift fan behavior to behaviors that are going to be driving more revenue for the team. So specifically, we propose a system we're calling Frequent Fanatics, a fan loyalty program, which essentially would be a team-based rewards program for fans of all types across sports and even across sports leagues. The way it would work is pretty simple. Fans would sign up, for example, at the purchase of a ticket, and then use events interacting with the team to check in and earn rewards points. For example, concessions purchases, actually checking in when they attend the game, that sort of a thing. And then those points can be exchanged for rewards as fans are able to kind of build up a points portfolio. And to get into some of the more detailed specifics of it, we propose a mobile application where you can offer targeted immediate savings to fans. Fans can then track those reward points that they're earning. You can send out targeted marketing messages to the individual at a personal level. And fans can also engage in other activities in the stadium, such as in-seat food ordering. And the overall goal here is really to understand and track those individual purchases that fans make when they're at a stadium. And a big part of that is being able to address the so-called anonymous cash challenge. And so taking on that challenge at a concession stand is actually relatively straightforward. We've all used the pin pads at a grocery store. It's the same sort of thing. We can just have fans check in right there at the pin pad. But a little more complicated problem is the roaming vendor issue. And basically 100% of purchases for roaming vendors are made right now with cash. So we propose affixing unique QR codes to the actual concession items themselves. Fans can then scan those codes right there in the stadium, right there at their seat on their phone, in order to accumulate points. And then the benefit back to the team and the stadium operator is that we know who exactly is making those purchases. Now, one nice thing about this program is that it takes advantage of a paradigm that most consumers are already familiar with. Virtually every consumer in the world right now is a member of at least a handful of loyalty or rewards programs. So we dug into that a little deeper. We conducted a survey over the past couple weeks of about 140 individuals and asked them what they would really want out of a rewards program. We found that about 75% of those respondents expressed a willingness to join a fan loyalty program, and specifically found that, interestingly enough, casual fans were really interested in economic benefits. So understanding like the ability to get discounts on tickets. Whereas the more avid fan was interested in a relationship. What exclusive events can I come to? Now that's only one side of the adoption coin. We need to make sure we're engaging the vendors as well, especially in limiting their impact on service time and aligning our incentives. So now Scott's going to talk to us a little bit about what we do with all this data now that we have it.
Thanks, Peter. So the question posed to us was, which customer segment is really the most valuable to franchises? Whether it's anywhere along the spectrum from your avid fan, the season ticket holder, or the one-time attendee casual fan. And the reality is that teams currently lack data to make a sufficient answer possible. So we wanted to take a step back and really look at what the levers are that teams can pull to really try and juice revenue, especially given the constraints of a finite and perishable seating capacity. So we've developed a framework for valuing each seat in the stadium based upon whether it's owned by a season ticket holder or available for purchase on a game-to-game basis. And really what this showed us was that the number of levers available to teams are really pretty limited. It includes increasing your ticket price, increasing your game day spend, decreasing the probability of an empty seat, and increasing the probability that a season ticket holder renews their contract from year to year. And what this shows us is that it's becoming increasingly important for teams to really gain information and data on a seat level and on an individual customer level in order to determine which one of these levers is most effective and most efficient for the team to invest in. So looking at revenue generation, we wanted to shift to how can long-term revenue growth really be accomplished? And we believe that this is a two-step process that is all about shifting customer spending behavior. This first step is shifting the immediate at-game day spend to increase your immediate revenue. And we do this by shifting upward the ticket spend, but also the merchandise and the concession spends. And Frequent Fanatics program enables this on a number of different levels. The features that Peter talked about earlier, the in-game or in-seat ordering, really allow us to decrease lines at the concession stand, decrease the number of overall anonymous cash transactions, and increasing our concession throughput. The ability to take a page out of the airline model and allow customers to upgrade their seats to unfulfilled seats when they arrive at the ballpark allows us to capture increased willingness to pay and also provides us some insight into price elasticity for seating. Now, the second stage of the process is really shifting this frequency of attendance. And this really gets at driving the likelihood that a seat is remaining empty for the game downward. And Frequent Fanatics drives this by enhancing and incentivizing repeat trips to the ball game, trying to juice that extra trip every season out of a current customer that's likely going to be cheaper for our marketing dollars than grabbing a new customer to fill that seat. And it also provides us some benefits in terms of marketing feedback loop to allow us to know which marketing programs are the most beneficial, and AJ will touch on that in just a moment. Now, as Peter mentioned earlier, casual fans and avid fans are really looking for two separate things from a rewards program. So we decided that we wanted to separate those benefit pools into separate categories. We call the first one the immediate experience, and this one's really looking at the casual fan. It's driving those economic benefits that casual fans are looking for, the discounts, as well as really enhancing that event experience that your casual fan who's only going to the stadium 1 or 2 times a year is really looking for outside of just the game experience. The second one is the ongoing experience, and this is targeted toward our avid fans. It's allowing us to take advantage of that long-term relationship and deepening that relationship with the customer by accumulating reward points and really gamifying the fan experience, allowing us to take advantage of the competitive spirit that really drives all of us true hardcore sports fans. With that, I'd like to turn it over to AJ to wrap up.
Thank you, Scott. All right, so in addition to enhancing the game day experience for fans, there's also an opportunity to extract additional value from the sponsors. Sponsors currently do not feel satisfied with their ability to measure the return on investment that they get from their sponsorship dollars. This system, the Frequent Fanatics system, allows sponsors to be able to better track the effectiveness of their marketing messages through their sponsorship. The loyalty program increases the sponsor's willingness to pay through in three ways. First off, the team can provide smarter, clearer data to the sponsors. Secondarily, we can establish stronger partnerships with the sponsors, being able to target or being able to issue aligned cross-marketing messages to the fans that benefit both the team and the sponsor. And lastly, we can provide an avenue to enhance the sponsor's ability to use social and digital media to connect directly with fans through the use of the InPhone app. Now, another advantage of the program is the ability to use a marketing feedback loop. As we continue to acquire data through the program, we can aggregate fan profiles. Utilizing these profiles, we can have specific targeted messages and promotions to specific fans, and we can monitor the responses of those messages to the fans to be able to provide a more personalized in-game experience. Additionally, we can collaborate with our vendors and sponsors to be able to provide additional product and services offerings that are specific to the fan, with the intent of being able to generate additional revenue for the team and the sponsors. Now, some of the risks, we also want to make sure that we address some of the risks and some of the alternative solutions as well. So there's 2 main risks that we focused on. First, we looked at cost-related risks as well as usage-related risks. The Frequent Fanatic program generates a significant return as we continue to generate and acquire customer data that more than compensates for the upfront cost of the program, as well as the fact that by providing significant incentives, we can mitigate any concerns regarding adoption risk. Now, some of the other alternative solutions, we looked at facial recognition or foot tracking type software, as well as a phone-based location type software as well. The 2 main issues with these types of solutions is one, there will continue to be a privacy concern with those types of solutions, and then secondarily, this does not solve the anonymous cash challenge that we had talked about before. So, in conclusion, the Frequent Fanatic program covers the problems that we addressed initially. It captures customer data, provides us an opportunity to segment our customers into different fan profiles. We are able to enhance the fan experience and ultimately drive revenue for the team and our sponsors. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions you have, and thank you for your time.
Question for you on your research around the 140. You had about 73% of your respondents said that they would sign up for a loyalty program or a rewards program. I'm wondering if you would, if you had any insight on the difference in your data there around the casual versus the avid fan, and the casual fan, if you extrapolate that into what percent, I don't know what percentage you think of a typical stadium experience are casual fans. In other words, I'm trying to get to what your thought process is around how many people we're actually going to capture on an average game that might utilize something like this. And I'm not sure if you've thought through that.
Sure, yeah, so we can touch on that a little bit. The difference between the avid fan and the casual fan in terms of that split was basically non-existent. It was right at that 70 to 75% mark for each of those. And with the kind of sample that we got and responded, you know, the bulk of people kind of settle in on that. I come to a couple games a year, sort of thing, which is where we bucketed them as the casual fans versus the season ticket holders or more frequent attendees. So that, I guess that kind of addresses the first part of your question. Could you remind me what the the second question was there.
Yeah, so if you extrapolate that through, how many fans do you think would actually sign up on an average game? And would we be tracking what percentage of fans at a typical game? And is it all worth it if you extrapolate that number out to do this at all?
Sure. So we didn't get into the specifics of how do we drive that sign up and projecting out an actual number there. But I think based on kind of some of the background, where right now only 5% of transactions on credit cards are even being matched up, even if we can hit a 50% or 60% threshold there, it'd be monumental difference in terms of what we can do from a personal standpoint for those 50 to 60% of fans, and then what we can take from that data and extract out and do a more broad segmentation to hit up the rest of the fans.
Was there any thought, and I applaud you for identifying the risks, including adoption. So in order to capture, the population or a sample of the population, was there any thought of like a non-mobile solution to capture some of those users that don't have or don't utilize apps as frequently as other demographics?
Definitely. We viewed it as really kind of a model mirroring the frequent flyer model, where a fan's web portal or a team's web portal would allow input of either a unique frequent fanatic code or a phone number linkage. That way, when you're buying it firsthand through the box office, it's going to track that. And then as a QR code, like if you go to a fast food restaurant, you get kind of the digits that you write down, or if you buy a can of Coke, you'll look at underneath and they have a cap that you can then type into your account on a computer when you get home. So we kind of view it as mirroring that model. But with the prevalence of smartphones, and one of the kind of drivers that we were hoping to see to drive adoption would be free Wi-Fi access as kind of a get them into that adoption hurdle, would then kind of serve as a complementary to using that smartphone to really capture more of the value.
One question I had was around sustainability of the program. For all the kind of capital investments that are required, how would you propose to maintain sustainability throughout multiple seasons to realize that ROI and yet not experience kind of that loyalty fatigue, if you will? How do you maintain the momentum throughout the offseason and throughout multiple years?
Sure. So I think the biggest thing with that is really understanding how the actions that you're taking through the program are being accepted by your fan base. And the great thing about doing things like this on an online basis is you have all the data for how every individual responds to every single thing you do. So you can do A/B testing, send out one message to one group, one message to another group, and understand what's working and what's not. And then you can gauge reaction on some of the things like those loyalty promotions. So for that, as you try to build the relationship in more of a long-term basis, understanding what promotions really work well and taking kind of the data that we're getting out of a lot of that marketing feedback loop to make the program more sustainable. If anything, it should become smarter and more refined as it moves forward, and that should help us avoid a lot of that fatigue.
Maybe you could explain your thought process around the unified platform across the different team structures, and sort of how challenging it would be to integrate the different vendors and different parties, and then at the end of the day, sort of who would own the data?
Yeah, so I think that's a huge challenge, definitely. But we thought it was worth proposing because we think there's a really substantial opportunity either within a given market to do cross-promotional efforts. I'm a Packers fan, I'm also a Brewers fan, I'm also a Badgers fan, obviously. So there's opportunities to know that Aaron Rodgers loves the Bucs, so therefore I also love the Bucs, and those sorts of things. So that's a cool potential opportunity to take advantage of there. I also think there's kind of a platform opportunity across an entire league. The MLB is doing some pretty cool stuff on mobile right now, and there's a chance to use that sort of cross-team data if we can figure out the way to make it accessible to the relevant decision makers across the parties that offers even more value than an individual team doing something on their own. All right, thank you so much. Jeff. Here you go, bud.
Right. All right. Thanks again, everyone. Thanks to Wisconsin. You'll see a lot of similarities in our presentation. We are a little shorthanded, just two of us today. I'm Sandeep, a first year at Kellogg, and this is Dan, my classmate. So like the Wisconsin team, a lot of identification of what we're looking at today. And when we researched innovation across fan analytics, we kind of took it to see incremental change over time. The Cleveland Indians came to our Kellogg Sports Conference last year and talked about a deep dive into fan segmentation and how do you identify different clusters of people that are important that are coming into your stadium. The Lions came to our conference this year and talked about how they take that data and how they track it once they're in the stadium. So this is kind of our context of what we're looking at. And again, you'll see a lot of digital focus here, but our emphasis will actually be on social context because that's an area we've seen where there hasn't been much monetization. So as you saw from the previous presentation, over 50% of purchases are in cash, where we're not getting a lot of data from. But this is significantly important to identify who these people are, because you ultimately want to increase the pie and then be able to capture value from that pie. And there's obviously many stakeholders that could be incentivized to do work with you to capture it together. So when we look at kind of our idea, we started thinking, what's in the current market? What have the Lions done? What have the Indians done? What are some of the stakeholders doing in terms of vendor management? Some vendors are using some pretty sophisticated data to say, hey, one area of the stadium is selling a lot of beer, you should place your vendors there. So that's kind of what we're looking at and building a framework around that. So when we look at different pain points and how it affects the bottom line, we said, what are some of the key components of what's going on in the stadium now, and how does that affect, our mark, the team, the leagues, and things like that. And what you see is there's a missing gap between when an initial purchase happens and maybe a secondary purchase. For example, you have someone who buys popcorn in one section, and then you don't know, again, like where he or she's going next. And so what we're trying to figure out, is there a way to identify who's buying what, in what level of the stadium? Are there different characteristics of that? And how are these repeat customers doing? And so when you run into a situation like Derek Jeter announcing his retirement, teams are losing that ability. StubHub jumped up the next day, 700% to that last game against Fenway. So how do you understand who's coming into your stadium, and how do you capture that, and how do you potentially anticipate that? And so to talk about our idea, it's called a digital fan pass, and again, with an emphasis on social. Dan will talk about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you, guys. So digital fan pass, again, not unlike what you've seen before, but we think this is a really important step that we can make as teams, vendors, and stadium management to be able to integrate with what's currently out there and create this digital medium to create a conversation with our fans. And that's really, I think, the important piece. So not only getting the fans to use it, but getting them to engage, getting them to create this conversation and give us feedback as the vendors, teams, and stadium management on how we can better serve them, how we can create this in-game experience where, we're competing with at home now. Now at home, I can do whatever I want. How can we help you get to the stadium and do whatever you want even better? And so that is the Digital Fan Pass app, which is something that you can actually scan. A lot of the fans and a lot of people, ourselves included, you like keeping that ticket stub at the end of the game. So we, the move to totally digital didn't feel like that was, the value was there, but it was actually able to scan the barcode of it and then be able to sign in and manage your entire account from there. So managing that account would be everything from the personalized coupons and marketing efforts to loading on money, having preloaded tickets, parking, et cetera. You can manage it all from your ticket stub right there and your phone. And then layering on this Skybox loyalty program, which is the program that's going to be able to not only manage the customer data, but provide incentives to at the margin, be able to drive revenue and drive growth. So where do we start? So we have to start with this robust data foundation. I think that's what we've kind of touched on with the problem identification. And that starts with fan profiles. So understanding who are these fans that show up, and not just the ones who buy the tickets, but the ones who come to the games, and what kind of behavior do they have. We talked about the snapshots versus stories, creating a story around different fans, and then starting to aggregate those stories to understand segmentations. Number two, Skybox loyalty program, layering that factor in there. So that's the promotional, that's where we can start to capture some value and create value and capture it with the fan profiles. So driving their personalized experience, and again, having a feedback loop where they say, hey, I want this more. And lastly, this is where the analytics can finally get layered in. So once you have the data, once you have that engagement, that conversation with the fan, and they trust you, now you can put on analytics that can actually build their loyalty in you and start to drive revenue and continue to grow their loyalty to your team and grow what they spend. So once you've built that data and we're talking about analytics, how do you drive growth? There's three big things here. One is identity, and I think this is not just the identity and identifying who the fan is, but the fan actually creating their own identity when they come to the stadium. Am I a fan that comes to the stadium and I come once or twice a year, but when I come, I want to live it up. I want to buy 20 beers when I get to the stadium. I don't suggest that. Or am I the fan that comes to 30 games a year? I'm not a season ticket holder, but I'm a big fan of this team. And understanding who they are and having them tell us who they are and what they want to be. Using a technology platform that it resonates with them. So especially our younger demographic, they're bringing their mobile phones everywhere. Second screens becoming huge when they watch at home. Why is it not becoming something that they use in the stadium? And then lastly, value creation. And there's two parts to value creation. I think it's one, driving more and extracting more value out of the purchases they already make. So that's like using a credit card or using your loaded ticket, which you loaded via credit card, and using that when you go to buy your, a hot dog at the concession stand. So now we're a much more data-rich transaction, and it's easier on them. Now I could, give my kid a loaded ticket stub, and they can go buy stuff instead of having to give them cash or credit. And secondly, new opportunities for value creation. What if the home team has a comeback win, fourth quarter comeback? What if we could push out a promotion to capture that emotional level where I'm like, man, I love coming to this game. That was awesome to see in person. And we can say, hey, why don't you come out to the next game? Why don't you come out to the next matchup when these guys face them again? Creating that value and that conversation would be huge. And then that all kind of accumulates in what we feel is the biggest part, which is the end user. Personalizing this fan experience. And what we feel is empowering the fan to be who they are and to have the best experience when they come to the game. And so that's with the profiles, that's also with this social aspect that Sandeep touched on. So not only can I get to a certain status as a fan or as a loyal fan, but I can actually share that with others. I can connect with somebody who, Sandeep and I actually are both huge Yankees fans, and maybe I didn't know that, but when I go to Yankee Stadium 10 times a year, I can actually meet up with him, and we're both silver status. Creating this thing where the fans are empowered and enjoying their experience and wanting to actually engage with us and give us more information back. And then some of the risk and uncertainties with something like this, with a user-focused, user-centric model. Number one that was previously mentioned is this whole idea of adoption risk. Anything that's especially social-based, social media-based, you're going to have at the beginning a very tough time in trying to get people to sign on. But what you can do is you can use promotions and things to drive activity. And once you reach an inflection point, you can actually start to reap a lot of the benefits from this type of program. So that's one risk. And another is some of the infrastructure and development costs we took into account. We were thinking, creating a totally digital, going with a card that they need to carry around. But we felt like this was lowest incurrence of extra cost if they could just scan the ticket they already get and manage it from there.
Great. So with that in mind, again, the key we want to emphasize is you have to listen to your customer. And it's important, not just to know the fans when they're in the stadium. You have to know them before. The goal is ultimately anticipate who these people are, cluster them, and be able to identify who's coming into your stadium. And then you want to leverage techniques that we've mentioned to create value, again, for everyone. It's important to create value for Aramark, create value for the team, create value for other vendors, and then be able to capture it, whether that's through premium pricing, through the application. There are many ways to do that once the momentum is built out. And again, there's a value in the database of creation of social users, and we think that as fans engage, they can leverage each other to build value. And that's our idea.
With the assumption in the case that a large portion of our attendees of games are single or one or two games each, could you talk about the thought process behind choosing a points-based loyalty system that requires accumulation over time?
Right, exactly. We thought about that, and I'm going to actually address that with another question you had asked earlier. So in the infrastructure costs, there's a value of like, what if I only attend a couple games? But there's actually a program that I use, which is called Belly, which is very simple to use, where it connect to ours. It's just, you basically, for those who don't use digital, this could just connect to your keychain. It could scan it as well. But the point being that we're trying to incentivize all of our stakeholders to help out. So it could be, you might go to 1 or 2 games, but there are other things that we do in the city that you could scan things for, work with other bars, other companies that sell your merchandise that you could scan it for. And when you do in-game promotions outside of the venue or their events, some stadiums host concerts. So those are things that you might be interested in attending as well. So we thought this is not just building it about the in-game experience, but ultimately driving at this is a larger experience about anything that's invested in our team.
How would you take this program and apply it to fans who might not necessarily live in the market in which their team resides in? So kind of thinking of a Red Sox nation or a Steelers nation, how would you kind of extend this program out to a Steelers fan living in California?
Sure, I'll take the first initial crack at that. As a Jets fan now in Chicago, or Yankee fan in Chicago, we deal with that. So we would actually try to partner with several websites that actually tell you where the local fan clubs are. You could attend those bar events, and then you'd still connect to our system. So you'd go, hey, I'm going to this bar in Chicago to watch Jets game on Sunday. Now the key is that social component, because from maybe your time in New York, who else has attended other games? Oh, Dan was with me 4 years ago. Is he still in my network on the Fan Pass? Maybe I'll hit him up and we can come to the bar together, and then scan it there, because you have a partnership now with this bar, and the loyalty points still accrue. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Good job. Good job, guys.
Good afternoon, folks. We're the team from the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. We've got Eric Sherman, Matt Pietroforte, and I'm Akshay Khanna. As you've heard already, the problem we're trying to address here is that a lot of sports teams have not had a lot of success in gathering data on fans and on customers that attend games at each one of the arenas. Some teams have started building insight into this, but currently, most offerings in stadiums are very, very undifferentiated for an extremely differentiated customer base. So we're talking no two fans have the same purchasing power and have the same purchasing behaviors. But currently, no one is addressing that difference. Teams have started addressing this to some extent. And examples include, we've seen a couple of these, but basically loyalty programs, rewards programs, mostly aimed at seasons ticket holders. And to a large extent, these ignore the 1 game or the 5 game or the 10 game folks who aren't seasons ticket holders but are purchasing their seats through some of those people. So what we believe is that in order to actually address this fan identification question, what's needed is a holistic platform that draws on the strengths of the initiatives that currently exist, and it provides teams with greater insights into fan behavior across fan types. To that extent, we bring to you Game Day Guru, which is that fully integrated mobile platform. And it provides teams with greater data from each one of their fans, regardless of how many games they're going to, and provides fans with an incentive to actually use this for both discounts as well as for improving their game day experience.
So as we set out to tackle the prompt, we wanted to get a better understanding of what teams are currently doing. So most franchises currently focus on their season ticket holders for very good reason, right? Season ticket holders are upfront guaranteed revenue over the course of the season. They also represent the most avid fans. They spend the most money at games, the stickiest customers, and have the highest customer lifetime value. So it's no surprise that season ticket holders have been the focus, but the single game ticket purchaser and the multi-game ticket purchaser has been largely ignored. So what kind of programs have these teams put in place? So there's 3 main types of programs that teams have done to date. The loyalty and rewards programs for season ticket holders. such as the membership club in the NFL. One of the problems with this is that, one, it's only aimed at season ticket holders, and number two, the problem with any loyalty and rewards program is that it just takes a long time to accrue rewards, and people just frankly lose interest. Paperless ticketing programs, such as the Braves recently put in place, which we'll get to in a moment, and non-mobile fan tracking solutions, such as the microchip giveaway, jersey giveaway that the Tampa Bay Lightning recently did, which we thought was an excellent idea and something that we could build off of. So we wanted to lay out in more detail 4 programs that teams have implemented recently. So I'll focus on the Braves and the Lightning. The Braves recently rolled out a fully digital ticketing platform, and through a partnership with Ticketmaster and other ticket providers, those tickets are fully transferable. So if a season ticket holder buys the ticket, they can forward that to whoever they sell it to on StubHub or another platform. The Braves estimate that this program is going to save them $60,000 a year in tickets alone. And if you want the paper tickets, if you want them for some sort of memorabilia, you can purchase them for $250. The issue with the program is that they don't offer any sort of customer retention or discounting program. Turning to the Lightning recently implemented a program a couple of seasons ago where they give season ticket holders a personalized jersey with a microchip in the sleeve, which can then be used at concession stands and offers discounts on their purchases of hot dogs and memorabilia. The program has a number of benefits, right? They increase season ticket holders almost double from one season to the next. And you see that the stadium is filled with Lightning jerseys. The only problem is that, number one, again, it's only targeted at season ticket holders. And number two, the fan must have the jersey with them in order to receive the benefits.
And so to address some of the concerns that Matt brought up with the existing programs, this is why we've come up with Game Day Guru. So like we talked about, it's an integrated mobile platform, and it's aimed at season ticket holders, single game ticket holders, as well as folks who attend 5, 10, 15 games over the course of a season. So Game Day Guru has 3 main features. Number one, which occurs right in the beginning of the game day experience, is a digital ticketing program. The digital ticketing program is aimed at eliminating paper tickets and allows Game Day Guru users to easily access and download each one of their game day tickets. Number two is the customer incentives program, and this is really where the teams start to benefit from collecting more data. Fans benefit because each time they scan the Game Day Guru app when making any kind of purchase at the arena, whether that's a concession, merchandise, whatever it may be, they get a certain amount immediately off. And so in this way, they don't have to wait for points to accrue. They're actually getting immediate discounts. And incentivizes them to then actually share some of the data of their purchasing behavior. And then the third important thing, and this is where teams are giving back to the fans, is a customized fan experience. So what we really wanted to achieve with the solution was a viable option that can be used today and that isn't dependent on future technologies, but then can also sit on top of a platform that may use technologies like MLB's iBeacon or essentially new products that come out in the marketplace aimed at relatively similar solutions. So to go into each one of the major features of the app, the first one we talked about was eliminating paper ticketing through this ticketing solution. So look, paper tickets are expensive, and in no way do they allow teams to track consumer data. The leagues and the teams are realizing this, and as we talked about with the Braves, they're eliminating paper ticketing altogether. Our solution is somewhat similar in that we provide a platform for tickets to be downloaded on a game-by-game basis as soon as the season's ticket holders download the apps. Now that addresses the season's ticket holders. For the single game ticket holders or folks who are buying 3 or 5 game tickets, we're going to work with third-party vendors like Ticketmaster, like StubHub, to make sure that each time someone buys a ticket, they're then given a link to download the app, enter in their unique code, and as soon as they open the app, their unique season ticket is pulled up. In this way, we're addressing some of the basic questions that the problem here needed to address, which is who's actually in each seat at every game, not just who initially purchased a ticket from the clubs, but who's actually sitting there, who's making the purchases of hot dogs and jerseys, and how they're purchasing each one of those concessions. The second major issue here, and we talked about this a little bit, is the anonymous cash challenge. And As we mentioned, about 60% of all transactions in the stadium are paid for in cash. Now that, unfortunately, eliminates all data transfer, and so the teams aren't able to collect any of that. Game Day Guru encourages fans to swipe their app every time they make a purchase in the arena. This way, they receive this instant discount, and the teams receive instant data on the fans' game day behavior, and this data is instantly fed into CRM that then allows the teams to aggregate the data and use it for future monetization purposes.
Now, let's move on to the third feature here. We've already shown you how we're going to use the digital ticketing platform to collect data and find out who's in the seats. We've shown you how we're going to incentivize consumption and incentivize adoption of this platform by doing discounts and other incentives to the fans when they use Game Day Guru in stadium. The third feature is where it all comes to life, right? Here is where we're able to deliver the customized fan experience to each fan. Now, there's a few examples I could take you through here on the slides, but for the purposes of our time here, I'm going to focus on one specific story of one unique fan. And what we're going to do with our fan, Sarah Wayland, is we're going to find out, first, what segment is she a part of, and what sort of revenue benefits can we achieve by improving her experience. What we've done is collect the data on Sarah, try to figure out who she is and what she does when she's at the stadium, and we're actually able to classify her as what we like to call a one-time Wendy. Now, what exactly is a one-time Wendy? Well, one-time Wendy's are usually young urban professionals, probably attending 1 or 2 games a year, typically come with a friend, maybe on a date, something like that. But when they do come into the stadium, they're not shy to spend. So the revenue goal here for this type of fan is simple. We just need to drive her to more games per season. If we can get her to go to 2 games instead of 1, or even 3 games, we're now doubling or tripling revenue per fan at that game per season. So there's a lot of added benefits here. Not to mention, there's also a lot of one-time Wendy's. And after we've actually identified who she is and targeted her within that segment, we're now going to deliver that customized fan experience. Based on our ability to say she is a one-time Wendy, there are 2 things that are going to take place. First, in the off-season, we're going to offer Sarah a 3 to 5 game ticket package at a discount and even throw in a free t-shirt, just so we can try to get her to a few more games. In stadium, the first game that she attends next year, she's going to sign in with her digital ticketing platform as part of Game Day Guru, and we're going to immediately send her an electronic coupon for her favorite product, premium beer. Buy one, get one free, buy one, get one half off, whatever it is. Ultimately, she'll have a beer on us, and we'll collect data in the meantime. The bottom line here, and what's most important, is that the fan engagement process is ongoing. We can now take the data of how she's interacted with those benefits offered. We can run predictive models into the future to try to figure out what one-time Wendy's are actually responding to. We've shown you in a brief time here today that right now there is no comprehensive technological solution to understand individual fan behavior and monetize the experience when people come to your ballpark, your football stadium, whatever type of venue it is for whatever sport. Game Day Guru is that fully integrated solution. We've shown 3 features. First, we're going to collect data via the digital ticketing. Second, we're going to incentivize people to actually adopt our platform by giving them discounts and other incentives. And finally, we're going to strategically engage those fans over time as we deliver them the ballpark experience that they want and deserve. Overall, Game Day Guru is implementable today, it's sustainable for tomorrow, and it's a win-win-win for leagues, franchises, and fans. Thank you.
So with all of this tied to the digital ticketing and the people who are buying the tickets, could be one person buying multiple tickets for multiple demographics, multiple types of consumers. How would you attempt to capture those consumers as well as soon as they walk into the door, they're just as important as the people who have purchased the digital ticketing that you've signed up on the Game Day Guru?
Yeah. So as you're talking about, there are corporate games, for example, where one person is buying 20 tickets. Now, a couple of features that we've thought about here is one, each time you're buying a ticket, you're entering the name, similar to when you buy an airline ticket. You're entering the name of each passenger. In this case, you enter the name and certain information for each one of the people who are going to be attending the game. Each one of those people is then given a unique code, as we talked about, with a unique link to the app. When they download the app, they'll actually have separate apps for each one of them. And so then when they go and make purchases of merchandise or of concessions, that is then recorded uniquely to each one of those individuals. So even though the payment took place from only one person, and yes, you're losing the payment information for what those other 19 people may have done had they purchased the tickets themselves, we don't have a solution to how you get that. But everything else you're able to capture by using actual individual codes.
Could you talk a little bit about the cost-benefit analysis in terms of if you're convincing an organization to adopt this program, what's the expected incremental revenue relative to the cost, and obviously on a general level?
Yeah, sure. So you know, we've thought about this, and so there's a couple of benefits. One, you know, we take the hit on margins by lowering the price points. You expect to make up some of that in increased revenue because all of a sudden you're selling more quantity of items at lower prices. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it that we talked about is this data is worth something to the teams, right? Each piece of data is monetizable. Getting that data is real. Those are real dollars that otherwise the teams are forsaking. Now, what this takes is a trial program. So you start pricing your discounts at certain amounts. You do an analysis to see how much you think that each piece of data is worth. And at some point, you change the percent that you're actually discounting to commensurate to the value that you're gaining from each piece of additional data that you're getting. And so, you know, if you price hot dogs 10% off and you feel like the data that you're getting isn't resulting in at least 10% incremental dollars as a result of the rewards program, you change that and perhaps price something else at a slightly different value.
A hypothetical question, you graduate, you're funded, and you go to launch this. You go to make your first sale. Is it to a league, to a team, or to a cluster of teams in a geography? What would be your thought process on the strategy against that?
I think it's going to depend by league to start. I mean, for something like this, we're going to want to go straight for, you know, talk about baseball. We're going to have to go talk to Baseball Advanced Media. They've already have their At the Ballpark app, which has taken bits and pieces of what we're talking about. And it actually is my belief that they are going to be on their way towards something like this. And this type of technology is just a few years away. Depending on the other leagues and what their needs are, we would have to make that determination.
But if you guys want to talk about potentially
That's
this idea from us, we're happy to do that.
In fairness, it was a hypothetical to all three.
Thank you.
All right, we'd just like to extend a warm thanks to Aramark, our sponsor, who made this entire competition happen, as well as Elevate Health and Craft Sports Group, who also provided judges, and to our competitors, who beat out 27 other teams, actually from around the world this year. We had submissions from as far away as Israel and China this year to even be in this room, so that's a really great achievement to be presenting here. And if you would like to find out the winner, we invite you to attend the Alpha Awards, which will be held tomorrow at the end of the day. And thank you all for coming. And just so you know, Phil Jackson is in the building.